Hello and welcome back to Telecomando RC. You know, it's always a good day when you can wrench on some RC cars and you're not necessarily fixing something, but you're hopping it up. You're making a few mods, or even if you break something, you get something that is better to go in there. So I had a video where I took a bash armor body and then I drilled the holes, made it fit. In this one here, now what I need to do is I need to replace the servo. So we're actually going to be replacing the servo with this Savox. This is a Savox, let's see, Savox SC0252MG. And you can look at the specs. So as of the time of this video, that's the price on the servo. So my buddy wants that in here instead of the 2075. And one of the reasons why, one, the torque, but two, he wants this aluminum adjustable bell crank to go in there by HR. And as soon as we put this in here, the servo saver, if you're familiar with these slashes, four-wheel drives, and the two-wheel drive VXL, the servo saver is on the steering bell crank. So as soon as that comes out, you're not going to have a servo saver. And if you don't have a servo saver, these 2075 servos by Traxxas are plastic geared. You're just going to tear them apart with something this size, four-wheel drive, and bashing. And this thing gets some air. So we are going to start doing that. So for this, we're going to have to remove a few components. Mainly, well, I'm going to go ahead and remove the sway bar. So those two I'm going to loosen, pop the sway bar off. These two screws have to come off, so this brace is going to be loose. I'm not removing the brace though, I just need those two screws out, which means those two have to come out. And underneath, I'm going to have to remove all of this. Notice I'm going to have to clean those. So it's always a good idea, don't use a screwdriver, just invest in a pick, and then you can just pick at whatever you need to clean out. So these are actually the screws from the other side. Yes. There we go. Those two there. So I'm going to be removing those. And actually that should be it. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I have my handy dandy driver. Actually, I think it's a 2.5. Yep, 2.5. This is a 2.5. Alright, so we're going to need a 2.5 driver. There we go. And I'm just going to remove these. Again, set your screws aside. If you have magnets, use the magnets to kind of hold them so they don't roll about. Alright, here we go. Alright, that's the one for the sway bar. And here's the one for the brace. Now, I strongly do recommend these braces. If you've ever used these slashes, they tend to snap right about here when you take really hard hits. The brace helps for that. So this truck's been bashing a pretty long time, taking really high jumps, and that brace has made the difference. Somebody else that usually runs with us has another slash. He actually lent it to somebody just to try it out, drive it, and the guy drove it into a car tire and just snapped the tub. So that's never fun. But yeah, so definitely invest in one of these braces. Yes, it's going to add a little weight up high, so your center mass is going to be a little higher, but you know what? It's a basher. And the overall weight with this, such a big can in here like he has, it's going to do just fine for bashing purposes. This truck is not made for racing on an indoor track. It's made to just have fun, run ovals. And here we go. Alright, let's see. Oh, actually, those are removed. I think that's it. Okay, actually, I'm going to go ahead. No, I'll remove that later. Yeah, guess I'll remove that later. There we go. Right, so that is it. You only have to remove those 6 screws. And they're all on top. 2 from the sway bar, and then the other 4 that hold the tub to the front clip. Once you do that, you want to remove the servo. Now this one here, I'm so used to the RPMs that are closed off. The nice thing about these Traxxas ones are that they do have that little gap, so you can just grab your 2mm driver and loosen this screw here so you can actually remove the steering arm from the bell crank, steering bell crank. And there you go. Perfect. I'm going to leave the screw there. I mean, there's no point in putting it somewhere else. It's not going anywhere. One of the things too is the shaft. So be careful with the shaft. Try not to bend it. The other thing too is try not to get any dirt in there. And this will slide off. It's better that you connect it here in the rear and then you try to attach it. If not, not a big deal. Connect it to the front and then just lift and attach it to the rear. Different people have different preferences on how to do that. I was going to leave it there and then I flipped it. All right, there we go. So now the bell crank is exposed. So we're going to go ahead and grab our 2mm driver. And we're just going to remove these 2 screws right up here. So these are the 2 screws that we're removing. And I'm actually going to loosen them up because I just realized these are the other way, so it'll be easier to remove the turnbuckles actually. So let me take the turnbuckles off. I apologize. So the turnbuckles, it's just those 2 screws, and these are countersunk screws. You won't be able to mistake them. Alright, so that was out. So that one came from that side. I'll place it on that side. So when I rebuild it, know where it goes. I've done this so many times that even if all these fell on the ground, got mixed up, I'd still be able to figure it out. But keep in mind that this might be the first time that you are doing this mod. And that's really the purpose of this video. For those of you that already have experience making this mod, please go ahead and comment, share your knowledge, tips and tricks, anything that you would like to add. Go. All right, now you have these little washers on top. Go ahead and take those. Do not lose them. And I will be wiping those clean before I reinstall them. And we have to remove at least one of these screws right down here. You're going to need your 2.5mm driver. So you just have to remove that. You wouldn't have to remove this if you took the whole bottom plate off. You remove the differential. I don't want to remove the differential, so I'm just going to loosen one of these and remove it. Now, if you have 4-wheel drive slashes and you also have a 2-wheel drive slash, and your 2-wheel drive comes with the white plastic bell crank, those are very weak bell cranks. Just take the one off of your 4-wheel drive, this one here, with the servo saver on it, and put it on your 2-wheel drive slash. It works. And it's a lot better, to be honest. Let's see, I'm going to have to remove the other screw too. Now, I do not believe the new one comes with bearings. One of the things that you have to keep in mind with the bell crank for installation is these bell cranks, this is a V shape. So the V goes toward the bottom. It's going to go like this when you attach it. So keep that in mind. So here we go. Got those screws, bearings. All right. So I'm just going to take these out and we're going to wipe some of this stuff clean. So let me just remove this. And we'll take a short little break just to wipe this stuff off. All right, and this is some of the new hardware that comes with the new bell crank, so I'm going to put this aside for now. And it's very, very good quality. This is by HR, so Hot Racing. It's actually very well machined. And you still keep there's still a servo saver in here. So you're going to get something that has less flex because it's aluminum. But you still get a steering servo. So if you wanted to run the stock servo, you could run the stock servo. Since we're already in here, we're just going to go ahead and replace it. But here we go. But for now, let's go ahead and install the bell crank. Now here, normally you would want to clean everything thoroughly, but my bud's gonna run this tomorrow and throw it in mud, so he told me not to worry about it. So the only thing I did is I just cleaned up the bearings. Those are in there again. Put a little bit of WD-40 or oil on the bearings. Now this will not fit this way. You will have to remove this piece here and then reinstall. So you're going to need your 2mm driver. Place that there. Alright, and this will slide right in. And you're going to be reusing your bearings, so do not lose your bearings. Now if you bought a new bearing set, that's fine. Also, don't lose these little bushings. This actually goes on the other side, but we'll worry about it shortly. All right. So you have these little bushings, brass bushings. These go from the bottom up. So make sure they're installed like this. We're going to place it here. And this one's going to be installed perfectly. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and put the bearings on this. And one important part about the bearings when you install them, make sure they're flush. You shouldn't have to force really anything in there. If you're having to force something in there, just use some really, really light oil or a little bit of WD-40, for example, something like that. And those will fit in. So now we just need to fit this part in here. So this goes underneath. Now I'm actually, just so I don't drop those bushings, I'm actually going to flip this. And then I'm just going to drop it in place. I missed. Let's try again. Alright, so we're just flipping it. And then we are dropping it in place. Here we go, perfect. So I'm actually going to grab one of the screws. And I'll do, I already have this one here. I'm going to do one screw at a time. Alright, so as long as you get it started, I'll finish tightening it afterwards. I actually had to put a little bit of Loctite. So I'm going to put some Loctite on this one just so I don't have to put it on and take it back off. And then I will tighten both of them together. I'm just gonna hold it here from both sides so it doesn't, so I'm just holding it like this, right there and there. Go ahead and tighten. Well, just drive it there, it's not fully tightened yet. Now I'm going to tighten. All right, do not over tighten. There we go, perfect. And this moves freely, so you double check. Perfect. So now you're going to take the washers. These washers are just going to sit on top. And there we go. So those washers are what hold the bearings in place. We're going to reinstall these. Need 2.5. Let's go with the other one. All right. Do not over tighten this. They're going into plastic, those thin tubes of plastic right in here. You don't want to damage that, or else you need a whole piece, this whole section you will need to replace. All right, so at this point, that is it. These screws you will not need right here, because these go with the old bell crank. This one came with its own hardware, if you remember those little brass bushings with those screws. So you are going to have some leftover hardware. The next step is to mount your arms. So here we go. So you're just going to drive a screw through there. Now you can actually reuse the old hardware. So this is the new hardware, this is the old hardware. The screws are the same size. So we are going to go ahead and just use the new one. And hopefully my buddy doesn't mind that I'm using new hardware for this new installation. Now remember, the screws are countersunk, so you're actually screwing from the bottom up. So flip this, and you're going to use these countersunk screws. Just put a little Loctite on them. Alright. And, well, I guess we can start with the left. Now I'm saying left because this is the left arm. I know it's to my right. Alright, there we go. So I'm just going to drop one in. And now I can use my 2mm driver, and we'll just drive this one all the way. Again, do not over tighten. You don't want to damage the aluminum. It's a brand new part. You just got the part. The worst thing you can do is damage your new part. All right, this one in here, just kind of line it up, grab the screw, drop it in. There we go. Now we're just going to tighten. And here we go. Perfect. All right. And that is it. So the belt crank is on and everything moves freely. You always want to double check, make sure everything moves freely. It doesn't take much effort for me to do this. Now the only thing we have to worry about is the servo. Now with the servo, one of the things that you have to worry about is the orientation. So look at the orientation of the servo. Something that you can do as well is you can always plug in a battery, start everything up, wait for the servo to get to its neutral position, remove the horn, plug the other servo in, and then attach the horn. Just make sure you attach the horn at the same angle, which is what we are going to be using a new horn. So this is a horn made by, again, Hot Racing, so HR, and this is the SLF 25 SH06. So this is an aluminum horn, 25 tooth, made for the slash. So it's the proper length. You don't have to worry about it being a little too short, a little too long. So that's what we're going to be installing, and we're going to be installing it on this servo right here. Now before I do, let me just double check, make sure there's going to be enough space. go ahead and measure. Servo may have to be for another video. Let me go ahead and measure everything first. It should fit, so we will check this out. Let's see. Oh boy, he's got a bunch of tethering here. I'm gonna have to go through and clean this out, separate the wire, cut that tie strap there, and then I'll run the servo through here. But to remove the servo, you're just removing those 4 screws. You're gonna have to open up the receiver box, so it's 1, 2, 3. There's another one down here, but I'm gonna have to move this to get into the receiver box. So I'm gonna do that really quick. Quick break. All right, break is over. So really quick, this here, once you have the servo in neutral position, you just slide this right on, and then you have this little screw. This is the clamping screw. So you're just gonna take your 2mm driver and clamp on. Now do not over tighten. And that is it. So this is now ready to be mounted in the vehicle. And this is a very, very nice servo horn by HR. I mean, machining quality is very good. All right, good. So I don't have to cut too many tie straps, just a few of those small ones. So we have the cable out. We just need to remove these 4 screws right here. So you're going to use your 2.5. Just remove those. Now the servo horn is going to stay on this 2075 servo. Don't throw it away. These 2075 servos, once in a while, if you go to the local track, once in a while there'll be young kids that are running rustlers, bandits, slashes, whatever, and they'll break their servo. I generally just give them away to the kids. I mean, just so they can get going. I figure, I mean, they're not my kids, so I guess some people would ask, so, you know, why do you care? The reason why I care is because these kids will grow up, and then hopefully they will take one nice gesture and continue to be nice kids, then nice adults. They will stay in the hobby, they will respect the hobby, love the hobby, and be nice to other people that are trying to get into the hobby just as they were getting into a hobby when they were kids. So just keep your 2075 servos, carry them with you, and then if some kid needs one, just give it to the kid. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to keep this the way it is. All I have to do now is remove that screw and attach it to the new servo. And as you can see, they do work. The Savox is just, it's going to be a little bit further forward, but it should work. So you're going to take your 2mm actually. So here we go, 2mm. There we go. Oops. I'm going to leave the servo horn. Take the arm. Notice the orientation as well. Do not flip this. All right, perfect. And then just apply some new Loctite or thread lock, whatever you have handy, and then you're just going to install it. And you don't need much, to be honest. There we go. And this will just go in here. And that is it. Do not over tighten again. Really quick, if you're new to the hobby or you just picked up a slash and you're beginning to do work, if you haven't invested in good quality tools, invest in quality tools. For example, these MIP drivers are amazing. Very high quality. No, I'm not sponsored by them. I just love their tools. So here we go. All right, perfect. So now that this is here, all you have to do is just slide the wire in, pull from the other side, and just drop it in. And that is it. Perfect. See, so it clears the box, everything. So now I can just go ahead and put those 4 screws back in, reuse your hardware. You're going to use your 2mm driver. Do not over tighten, actually 2.5. Do not over tighten, because if you over tighten, the threads are on the tub. You're going to need a new tub. All right. Now, really quick, let's just say you lose a screw somewhere, a tight place, you can't get it out, you don't have your needle nose pliers, but it's not stuck, it's just a small little gap. You can always just grab a magnet, attach it to part of the shaft here, and it'll pick up the whatever the screw is. As long as it's a ferrous screw. If it's an aluminum screw, you're out of luck there. Or titanium screws, you're out of luck. But if it's ferrous, any ferrous material that's light, like these screws, it'll pick them up. So that's another little trick. All right, and perfect. All right. At this point, the only thing that we have left now is to attach this to that, and then we can put all of this together. So look at that brand new servo this truck is getting. So we're getting really close to buttoning everything up. Now this, keep in mind the orientation. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip it, attach it this way because it's easier, and then I'm just going to twist the two things together. So all you need is the screw that goes in there, and you're going to need your 2mm driver. So don't forget your 2mm driver, and do use a little bit of Loctite or thread lock, whatever you have handy. Alright, so that will drop in, and here we go. Oops, perfect. As always, do not over tighten. There we go. Alright, so again, you have two options. You can leave the shaft as it is and line it up over here on the bottom in there. Not sure if you can see. Well, let's see, there's the shaft, so it's got to go in there. Or you can actually remove this here from back there. Just remove it there, install it up front first. Actually prefer the other way, but I'm doing it this way. Alright, and just start moving the front end back. Oh. Just make sure you're lining up the rear part of the shaft so that when it goes in, when the clip falls in place, everything falls in place. Alright. Actually, I need my legs for this so I can hold it with my knees. Aha! I found out why. Alright, so the arm actually goes underneath. Got disoriented. It's alright. It'll happen. Alright, so this screw, I mean, I should have actually known because this flat portion here, this is where the screw generally goes, and then the small portion, that's where it comes out of. So if you see the arm, see how this is small, and then over here there's this larger cap where the screw sits. All right, so let's go ahead and attach it. It's easier if you use your thigh to hold it. There we go. All right, perfect. And all right, so back to the shaft. We're going to go ahead and place this in there, and I'll try to use the table. Alright, so as I mentioned, you can attach it to the front. If you attach it to the front, so it's now attached to the front, if you can see through the camera maybe, or maybe if I pull this a little through there, no, not really. Well, anyway, it's attached to the front. So now just work it, but as you're coming in, one, make sure that sway bar is out of the way. You want to make sure here in the rear it's actually going to go in, and then you're just going to keep pulling back until the two surfaces mate. See there, and I'm going to move the shaft rearward. And the thing that you're gonna have to kind of work in is, see these little dimples there? That's where your steering belt crank goes. That's where it needs to drop in. So again, using my thigh. so much easier to just use your thigh. There we go, perfect. Okay, so this is mated. Notice the shaft is in there, so that works out. And these surfaces are mated as they should. Therefore, all we have to do now is install our screws. So these two will go first, and then over here, remember, the ones on the brace go first, and then the ones on the sway bar. So you're putting everything back together in reverse order. And what I mean by reverse order, if you removed it first, you're going to install it last. All right, so that'll go here. And then this will go in there. Now that one's tight, I'll tighten that one. All right, so we have 4 more screws to go. We have the 2 on the brace. Those are the large ones. Do not over tighten. If you over tighten, you're going to damage your tub. And finally, you have the ones that hold the sway bar. These are also 2.5 millimeter. Here we go. And we need to install the other one so that the sway bar lines up. So do not install one screw and then all the way and then the other. You have to install them both so that the sway bar lines up. If not, it's going to want to twist, and you don't want that. You want it to be as even as possible. There we go. Okay, perfect. And there we go. There should be some free motion. They're moving freely, a little too much. So then just pull on an arm up. And when you pull on the arm up, you will see the sway bar. Here we go. All right. So the sway bar has too much play right in here. So I'm gonna drive the screw in a little more, and that's all you do. So you still want the sway bar to move freely, but you don't want it to be bouncing up and down. All right, perfect. All right, that one is good. So that's it. All we have to do now is just button up this right here, and just remember that your steering always goes in channel 1. Now with these boxes here with Traxxas, you're going to have to go in from the top. You're going to drop this in there, pull on it, and then just make sure you attach it to channel 1, which is your steering. There we go. Okay. Now you have this little gasket, rubber gasket. Make sure that's lined up. All right. And I'm going to set this on top. And then I'm just going to push the wire in after I've screwed this shut. All right. And 2 millimeter. We're almost finished. Let's see if that's in. That is. There we go. The ESC was pushing the top cover. All right. So now I'm just going to push the excess wire in there for the servo. I don't want this hanging out, and there's plenty of room in there. And I'm going to try to sort of snake it so it does like this S shape as it's going inside. Now the reason why I didn't do it in the beginning is because I wanted a little more room to mess with this. Then, let's see, I want a nice little flat spot, so I want this to be flat. I want that wire to be flat. I'm actually going to pull a little bit of the slack out. And now I'm just going to hold it. And I'm going to reinstall the cap. Let's see, antenna wire, good. There we go. All right, so this is just going to go on top. Again, I'm just going to put this here. He's not going to be, he's not going to get water in here, but you can always use a little bit of grease or petroleum jelly in there just to seal it a little better against the elements. But there's a good piece of foam on top and on bottom of that little cap, so I'm not worried about it. Here we go. All right, one more screw. And then hopefully I can get some running videos of this rig out there with the new servo and the new body. If you haven't watched the previous video, go ahead and watch it. That's where I take a body bash armor and I drill the holes to make it fit, which is this one right here, which will be installed in the final video once I'm finished with the wheels and tires. For now, this is it. We've replaced the steering belt crank and the servo. Thank you very much for watching Telecomando RC. Please like, subscribe, share, and again, catch my buddy in Instagram at Rods Reels RC. Thank you so much for watching, and you can catch us at Telecomando RC. I'll see you in the next one. Be good.